I hate that part of social media these days because you almost have to be a little clickbaity to get something, and that to me is inauthentic, right? That's the opposite of what I want to do. The first videos I think you acknowledged that you made, and I'll acknowledge the first ones that I made, were garbage. It's a game. You put your best foot forward and you make your best plays and see how it works or doesn't work, and you adapt from there.
Marketing and sales you have to do anyway. It doesn't matter if you're a content creator or an influencer, because marketing and sales is kind of the heart.
If you can get a little bit better every time at doing that, a little bit better at understanding your audience and better at making your hooks and better at making the thumbnails, and you slowly just work your own internal machine.
So it's really a struggle to find good employees nowadays, especially for the next generation that's coming.
Well, it's very difficult. It's not for everyone. And that's what I try to explain. There are times I don't want to record a video, but I'm smiling through it, right? You feel like you're just like up here, kind of almost like a show, but you got to push through and you got to make that stuff happen. There's also this world of edutainment where you're educating and doing some sort of entertainment value to it.
If you think you start your own business and chill and work less, that's a myth. Your life actually starts when you're 30, 35 in terms of money, career-wise and business-wise.
I have no idea where I'll be in 5-10 years, but I know what skills I want. I know what knowledge I want. If it's not getting me that, then I'm not interested anymore. You gotta know when to say no.
Yeah, I'm also leaning more towards especially for LinkedIn, like putting out more bold stuff, like bold statements. Now, it doesn't matter if it's like about the business that I have, marketing and sales, because I think there's so much noise in the industry, like engineering, like in general, marketing, sales, whatever, that you feel like whatever you say, people just scroll like through social media anyway. They don't really care about you.
Yeah.
So really, you have to find what makes people stop scrolling, which is another aspect of YouTube. How do you design your thumbnail? How do you actually start a hook in your video, etc.? This is all a learning process, I think, that comes with time. I'm not sure how it was for you, especially the experience of like creating thumbnails. Like the first ones looked horrible that I had, like slapping something together in Photoshop or Canva, and like, okay, that will work.
It's so embarrassing. Even early videos are just cringeworthy type of things.
Yeah.
It is hard, and I feel like that's the competition you're against, right? Someone searches for MATLAB course, someone searches for CAD tutorial, or just scrolling through LinkedIn, and I hate that part of social media these days because you almost have to be a little clickbaity to get something, and that to me is inauthentic, right? That's the opposite of what I want to do. But when you're competing with so many things and other content that's coming out every minute, every day, you have to have something that jumps out, something that draws attention, whether it's bright colors or movement or a statement that's a little bit controversial, not untrue, but also not super, and you hate that. I hate that so much. It is the opposite of what I like to do. And I struggle with it because I don't want to sell out to this clickbaity culture. But then when the person who's doing the clickbaity stuff has 1 million views on their video, I'm like, this just drives me up the wall right now. Like, how have you, you mentioned putting these bold statements on LinkedIn, like where do those come from? What are those just honest opinions that you're just kind of formulating strongly? Like what's going into that?
Yeah, I think I don't want to drift too much away into a political discussion, but I think especially nowadays, even something that is not even controversial to begin with is seen as controversial just because you say it out loud or you speak your mind. And I think that's becoming rare these days. Like people who actually say, yeah, I'm thinking this, this, and this is how I see the world. Either you like it or you don't. And that's it. And I see too often, especially on social media or like LinkedIn in particular, people are just going to clap at each other or like tap everyone's back. Like, okay, it's fine. Yeah, you're doing well. It's okay. Even though then they might be not doing well. And you need someone who tells you like the truth in the face. I'm not talking about YouTube in particular, but just in general, like, okay, if this is garbage, it's garbage. Like, especially if someone says to my video, for example, it's a shitty video, then I'm like, okay, maybe he's right. Like, why is it shitty? Don't you like the hook? Like, don't you like, hey, welcome back to my channel? Maybe that's annoying. I've had comments like these. I'm like, maybe that's true. Maybe I should adapt my hook or make it a little bit different to make it more engaging for people. So there's all these small parameters and knobs that you have to turn a little bit to get to the perfect quote unquote video. You won't maybe hit 1 million views, but always that like 0.5% or percent improvement from the video to the next one is, I think, what's going to make a difference. And also becoming more confident in front of the camera. Like if I look at my first video, like it's really cringeworthy. Like it's crazy.
Yeah. I think, okay, you mentioned very briefly in there, the compounding effect.
Yes, correct.
And I think that is key, right? Some people are out there and they make a great video to start and they've got a great team. Maybe they have a background in design or something. The first videos I think you acknowledged that you made, and I'll acknowledge the first ones that I made, were garbage. But it's important to try. right? That shouldn't deter you and new creators from putting their best foot forward and just trying things. A lot of it's experimental. The strategies that I had beginning making YouTube videos and like LinkedIn posts, from then till now is drastically different. And I've pivoted, and it's important that you keep trying and you keep making effort, because you never know what's going to blow up. Like, I've been shocked. My most popular video, by the way, is how to import packages in Python, because I struggled with that. I made a video so I could go back to it in the future when I made the same mistake. And apparently 300,000 people also are having that same exact issue right now. So like, you never know where something's going to come from. And
Yeah.
like, it's important. I think, you're firing off these ideas in different directions and you go for it. But if you can get a little bit better every time at doing that, a little bit better at understanding your audience and better at making your hooks and better at making the thumbnails, and you slowly just work your own internal machine, then after a year, after 2 years of doing it, like, I think we've kind of figured it out a little bit. We've got better ideas. We know how to do it. We're saving time. We're more efficient in making videos and making content and getting things out there. And that's an important curve that anyone should be on if they're serious about doing this long term. Is that something that you would get behind as well?
100%. 100%. I feel like also the compounding effect in terms of skill. Like the first video took me probably half a day to edit. And now I edit literally a video in 1 or 2 hours, like super quick, even if it's like a complicated video.
Mm-hmm.
I think also a lot of people, maybe they want to be creators, but they don't do it because they know how much work is behind that. Maybe they've heard of, maybe they're listening to this podcast saying, okay, how much effort actually goes into it. And it's not only like being able to edit, but also like being like okayish in design, maybe know how to use Canva or Photoshop, be possibly a good speaker, maybe a good storyteller, smiling to the camera, even though you might have a shitty day, all that kind of stuff that goes into a video. Like it's hard to explain, but
Yeah.
you should actually record a video, because I know some people before I even started YouTube, they were looking at these influencers in Germany and in other countries. They're like, well, that's easy. I can carry a camera all day long and then just record myself. I don't think you can, especially being the consistency aspect of it. Being a creator is so underrated. It's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I did. And one thing you didn't mention amongst the list of the many things, the other one's lighting. That's what I'm just starting to work on too. You can see I've got I had to buy all these lights recently.
Yeah,
Right, so
exactly.
you can
Yeah,
record any time of day, because I was depending on like natural light. I'm like, this is
yeah,
ridiculous. And that's stuff that admittedly I don't want to spend time on. I want to
yeah.
just deliver education, and make people understand and learn. And like, that's what I care about. But you need to like get all this other stuff put together, and it can be exhausting and a little expensive here and there. But there's so much behind it, and everyone who's already doing it online, again, you see the content that's already got people who have good lighting, who've mastered their audio, who've mastered their voice. And so you see that and it looks so natural and easy, and you're going, oh yeah, easy to make that video. And now I look at it and I go, like, who's doing their lighting? I'm like, how did they get this audio recorded? I start thinking of it in a different
Yeah,
perspective and
exactly.
watching
It's
these
just,
things. And I'm trying to learn,
yeah,
I'm like, what trend are they hitting? How did they catch my attention to watch this video? How can I replicate that when I do
correct.
my next one? You look
Yeah,
at
this is so
content so
interesting.
differently.
I love that, Phil. Like, I also like, especially like going from the consumer point of view to the producer point of view. Like,
Yeah.
even when you buy, like, I don't know, a coffee outside, I'm always thinking like, okay, this is a nice coffee. I'm thinking about how did they make me buy this coffee? Like, was it the advertisement? How the colors look like?
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
thinking like completely different as a creator, basically.
That's so
This
important. Yeah.
is
LinkedIn is like that all the time. I look at you a lot on LinkedIn, and I try to see like what aspects of you do I like that I would be interested, because it's always, you build off things that work,
yeah,
and so I try to observe what works well, because I don't post a lot on LinkedIn. I post about like every 4 months, and it's not necessarily about MATLAB. It's more about like professional development in my life.
mhm, yeah,
And I don't promote all my YouTube videos on there either. I think I've only posted 1 or 2 videos, so it's an interesting to carry the brand, but to watch and how others are procuring their brands. It's a game. And then you put your best foot forward and you make your best plays, and see
yeah.
how it works or doesn't work, and you adapt from there.
Mhm. I think what's also very important to mention, I think, especially in the beginning, you think like you want to hit the million views, whatever, you want to get to 100,000 subscribers. Right now, I think I'm at the stage, probably you as well, where like the views don't count that much, because you don't really know who's watching the video. It could be a video with 100 viewers, but they really have a purchase power. Let's say you make
Yeah.
a business video or finance videos, they will buy something from you. Could be $1,000 course, whatever. And even, I think I know some YouTubers that make a good amount of views, but they're literally broke. And I think people have to
Mm,
understand that views doesn't always equal these guys are rich. Because I know even an engineer in Germany, I know him. He does like he goes to buildings and identifies like cracks and he fixes them. He has a YouTube channel with like 50 to 100 views, and whenever he closes a deal, this is like a 6-figure deal.
Whoa.
And like he has 50 to 100 views, and you're like thinking differently
Yeah.
because it depends on the audience you're targeting, which is so super important.
Wow. And yeah, that's the best example I've ever heard of that too. That's incredible. And it's what's happening behind the scenes in that, right? He's closing these deals where it's
Yeah,
not just depending on YouTube to be the sole source. Now, a few people I
correct.
know can do that, and they've used it to fund like building wooden boats and things. And I'm truly, truly impressed. And they've got really good Patreons. That's what I've noticed too, seems to be. And that's what you're talking about, getting those viewers to convert
Yeah.
into then paying in some other form than just watching the videos, because one viewer doesn't really contribute much revenue wise through YouTube. But if you can get them to sign up for $10 a month because they're supporting your mission, supporting the initiative, getting whatever benefit they can out of Patreon. You've also got the Substack development recently too, a new
Hmm.
platform. I'm not sure if you've done that or anything, but that's
Yeah.
where you're kind of like medium.com, but now it's direct access to your $5 a month opinions on X or your recipes on
Hmm.
Y or whatever. And I had one guy who met me and is like, I would love to read a Substack from you. And I'm like, you're the only one, but I appreciate that. But there's all these different areas to target your market. And like I knew an Instagram influencer who had tons of, likes on the videos and shares, but she wasn't making anything. She was a cook and she wasn't
Yeah.
making anything, but her Substack is where she put the recipes. And that Substack had 50,000 people on it, and they each paid $5 a month. And I was like, wait a second. Like, you are at another level right now. Like, that's insane to me that you drive that type of funnel into a place that pays. Doesn't matter
Correct.
if you had 100 million views on a video or if you had the 50,000, but she converted those 50,000. And I'm like, okay, stop right there. Like, you won.
Yeah.
You did
If you
it.
have a strategy figured out for your channel, I think it's very, very hard in the engineering space because there's just so many influencers out there. And I think students, they're not willing to pay really like $5 a month. For some people, it's
No.
just too much money.
No, it's not. And this is also like gets to a little bit of I'm not sure how you've pivoted over the years. I know you were initially like excited about getting all these YouTube views and like trying to get the channel really big. You pivoted into working with companies. I'm still trying to push the YouTube avenue as well, but I'm
Mhm.
switching the way I'm going to be doing content in terms of the topics. Like I want something my mom can watch. So my mom can watch
Yeah.
and enjoy it. Like, cause she knows like if my mom's not watching my videos, like there's something wrong with the way I'm constructing videos. The problem is they've been really dry. They're just the straightforward screen sharing content of a language. Those are important videos to have. It's the core technical content. But there's also this world of edutainment where you're educating and doing some sort of entertainment value to it, not to diminish the education that someone's learning, but to complement it and to show it as an applied science, to show it as here's this CAD model I made, here's how you can make it. And now I'm going to print it and test it. And that's, I think people like seeing the applied side, the in action side of what's going on. And that attracts a much larger viewer base. So my buddies from high school who are like, wait, you do marine robotics? I'm like, well, yeah, it's kind of fun. They're like, why aren't your videos showing any of that? That's one of the like most interesting new developing fields, and you're not talking about it. So I'm trying to like switch around a little bit. So I haven't made any videos for quite some time, uh, or at least at the rate I used to. And I'm hoping to do a lot more like fun outside applied stuff with marine robotics. And then I'll have links to videos that'll be like, if you want to learn how to program this robot, here's that video. So I'm going to try to, it's a little bit of best of both worlds I'm trying to do. And I think in the next like 4 months, I'll see if that works or not, because I'll have those videos
Yeah.
out. But I'm curious if that's a better way to kind of engage the one audience who needs the deep technical content, but engage the really broad audience who wants that entertainment value behind robotics and what programming can actually do. Because we always miss that, right? We teach how to do Fourier transforms and then never show how it like has influenced an industry, right? That's a big difference in the way you make videos and the way you deliver your content. I'm trying to make that switch right now. We'll see if it works. But again, it's like high risk, high reward market.
Yeah.
And, maybe one of those videos blows up and that's the game changer. Maybe I just wasted the last 6 months of my life trying to redevelop everything. And you don't know. You
You
just
don't know.
don't.
That's the thing. But the thing is, what I really like about you and a lot of other creators is you just go for it, even though you don't know what's at the end of the tunnel. You just
Yeah.
do it anyway, just to, like, for example, like I have a couple of thousand people who follow me on LinkedIn, right? When I put out a post, I don't even think about anymore if it gets a lot of likes. I really don't care anymore,
Yeah.
because for me, like, YouTube and LinkedIn is just a trust building element at this point. Like,
Hmm.
I know I can do it. If I lose my account, I could do it again, because I know
Sure.
how it works. So I really
Sure.
don't care anymore about the numbers. But in the beginning, it was like, when I started the YouTube channel, I was like subscribing with another fake account of mine to my actual YouTube
Yes.
channel. And then you just refresh. Okay, one subscriber, one subscriber. Maybe my mom
Good result.
subscribes,
Yeah.
like someone from my family. I
Yeah.
don't know, but that
That's
was
right.
weird.
When I got to, I was like at 950 subscribers, early on in my channel. And when you get to 1,000, that's like you're big, you can start to get
Yeah.
your own custom page URL or whatever. I remember texting like all of my family and friends, like posting the group chats. I'm like, like a beggar. I'm like, please, just anything, 1 subscriber will do. Like, but some things you do to just try to get there. And yeah, but eventually it's like, okay, how many subscribers I get a week right now? I don't even know.
I
It's
also
not a
don't know.
lot, but it doesn't matter, right? That's not going to be the big break. The 5 subscribers you get tomorrow isn't going to change your life. It's going to be the big moves that you make and the big impacts that you can make that'll actually
Yeah,
start to, change things on a large level. It's just
absolutely.
we start to nitpick when you're new, but the reality is it's the effort you're going to put in over time. It's that compounding that'll actually have any result in you having success long term.
Mm. Also feel the butterfly effect is like kind of in between, because you really don't know what you're like initiating, and someone else, or like someone texting you on LinkedIn saying, "Hey, I really love the video on turbulence or like CFD or whatever about MATLAB. I really like it. Inspired me to take that path A or path B, whatever it might be." I think
Mm-hmm.
this is super interesting. But have you thought about like doing maybe consulting? Because I feel like I know you want to do kind of this video series like edutainment, but maybe consulting, because you have a very specific skill set which you could offer as a consulting to other
Yeah.
businesses.
I think that's something I'm hoping to develop more. I'm still, yeah, I'm doing that. I did that online course for E-level. That'll come out soon. Got another one online already. I'm doing this new kind of shift. And I do hope, I work at this laboratory right now. And I'm learning at a crazy rate, which is awesome. And I'm building this skill set where it's like I've got mechanical design and testing. I've got programming in the robotics space, a variety of languages. And I think couple years, I'll be really set up to do a nice consulting gig, because I'd like to be able to, like I mentioned earlier in this podcast, is you're making more dollars per hour for the effort you put into things, right?
Just
Consulting is a
high
great way to
leverage.
do that. Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Like you get more output for it. So that's
Yeah.
definitely an area, and consulting can do that. And I'd love to be able to travel with it and go places and show up wherever a customer is and help, develop a robotic system, or just simply gather data with an existing robotic system that I've put together. I think that's really interesting. I don't see a huge market, at least for me yet, of people reaching out and saying, "Hey, can you write this code for me?" I have done that a couple times and made a couple $100 from it. I did an automation program for a guy, and he had a very small startup, and actually started working for that startup for a little bit. So it gives you different opportunities in that regard. But I haven't gotten a lot of, "Hey, I want you to write our MATLAB backend for something as a consultant." I haven't gotten that attention yet from the channel. I'm not sure if
Mhm.
you've gotten any of that, like, "Hey, could you do all of our CFD or fluid?" I'm not sure if you've seen in that regard either.
I think what I'm doing with Apex, I'm not sure if the audience knows it or you know that. Like for Apex, we started actually as a marketing consultancy or agency
Mm-hmm.
for tech and SaaS businesses,
Yep.
which was kind of a very pointy positioning, like only tech and SaaS. And now we're going a little bit more broad. We even have lawyers as clients right now, and they just want to get help with like, how do I actually acquire clients? How do I set up a YouTube strategy? All that kind of stuff.
Sure.
Marketing and sales, like how do you systematize it and build processes around this? And I think especially in your case, what I would probably do is like just get a couple of test clients or pilot
Mm-hmm.
projects and then see what you're really good at and what is actually scalable, because some of the
Yeah.
business ideas everyone has are not scalable, and just do that one thing alone, get a couple of clients in, and then you can go a bit broader. And I think this is the best approach, especially consultancy or like having an agency, for example. You could charge easily like every client like minimum $2,500,
Yeah.
and there's actually
Yeah.
no cap. Like I think YouTube should be more like a trust building thing. You could talk about your business, about your expertise. And then if
Mm-hmm.
people Google your name or your business, they will see, hey, this guy actually is legit. This is
Yeah,
the way
exactly.
how I approach it.
You've got a whole thing behind you. I've noticed that too, being able to leverage an existing YouTube channel, existing
Yeah,
LinkedIn that has a good kind of integrity behind it. That's definitely opened some doors, right? When you can already say, "I've
definitely.
been doing these things and now I'd like to work with you." and they look you up and like, oh, okay, this dude's legit. That actually
Yeah.
speaks volumes. I don't think I've acknowledged that out loud yet.
Yeah.
But it's a big thing. And one thing, you know, you mentioned like you do your marketing thing, and that's awesome. It's a great interest you have. I don't have a huge interest in doing the marketing side, but I'd love to find clients to do technical consulting with and develop that world. And that's just a different approach. But I think you're right. If I can get a couple of good clients in that are successful, that can really start that next, you know, journey. And I would love to get into very technical, like in the marine space that I'm in, doing underwater systems, autonomous systems, robotics and stuff. There's not a lot of content out there in that field right now, but there's a lot of people that have been in it for years, and there's a lot of very advanced instrumentation, but no one knows how to use them. There's no videos on how to use them. They've got these software development interfaces, some APIs. I'm always wondering if I could work with those companies to, I guess maybe it is a marketing game at this point, but it's a technical marketing like you're doing, where, you know, let's say someone's got an advanced acoustic camera, but and they sell them for like 70K, right? These are high value assets to a company, and being able to like use that, play around with it, show a use case, show how it works, and then that be like, and I'm paid to make that video, but it's still my honest opinion of it, using this, reviewing it, having fun with it, solving some problem in the local community with it, and then ship it back to them. But that would be a great way to interact with companies, still make some revenue, and showcase this awesome tech and be able to use it myself. Like I'm a tech lover guy, where you get my hands on something new, I'm all about it. I think that checks a lot of boxes for me going forward. And that's something I'm looking to push in the next,
Yeah.
6 months here.
That sounds good. That goes back to YouTube though. What I was more thinking for you is more like the consultancy slash, you could even be an agency or like doing but the coding work, but for the marine space, which would be like your unfair advantage because you're in the marine space, and then kind of piggyback on that expertise that you collected over the last years. That would be my approach probably. And then marketing and sales you have to do anyway. It doesn't matter if you're a content creator or an influencer, because marketing and sales is kind of the hard. Like if you don't know how to do marketing, which is, by the way, is thumbnail, how you speak, etc. This is kind of the marketing of the brand yourself. And then the sales aspect is like if a company comes, how high can you go in terms of pitching your service to them? This is the sales skill.
Yeah. That's a fun one. I've got a 300-page book right now. It's like how to sell for dummies. I did a little bit of sales back actually when I was in Germany living there. You know, I was selling electrical connectors and stuff like that. And it was fun. And you have to have a certain personality for it and drive to be interested. And the pricing battle is always so interesting. But I think the more you do it, the more you kind of figure out where it levels off. And I know we've kind of talked on some things too. And you give me some great advice. And I appreciate that. And it's just a battle of going for it and seeing what people say yes to.
And also like understanding, this goes also like another skill. You have to understand the psychology, not only of the viewer, but people or companies who want to work with you, like in terms of like price anchoring and like what do they actually need? What are their pains? So you really need to know a lot of things. You need to have a lot of skills to be not only a content creator, but also maybe a business guy who wants to sell his services.
Absolutely. No, and even just running your business is a whole nother world of making sure you got tax consultants so you don't screw anything up, making sure that you're keeping your books together, keeping your bank accounts together. I mean, it's a little bit of startup. There's a lot of good resources out there on that. I think that's a good skill for life. Yeah, it's being able to start your own company, knowing how that works. The next startup you're a part of will love that you've done that. Like it's just can only help going forward.
Absolutely. Did we miss anything, by the way, Phil, in terms of like, I think probably the topic is going to be of that podcast, like how to become an influencer. I'm not sure if you want to become one. Anything else we could talk about? I'm just thinking.
I'm curious. Do you have a 5-year plan for all of this? Where would you like to be with Apex and with, let's just all the avenues, right? With YouTube and LinkedIn in 5 years, where do you see yourself going?
Revenue wise, or like just
the state of what you'd be doing? Are you going to be doing the same thing? Are you going to have a bunch of people working for you? Or are you going to be, revenue, whatever, it'll come, it'll go. But like, what does that look like? Are you solely working on that now? Are you doing still another side job? What does it look like?
Yeah. I actually quit my job at this time, like whenever we record the podcast, like 3 weeks ago, I quit my 9 to 5.
Right. Let's go.
I think the goal should never be like, I want to have 50 employees or 60 employees, because you could have 60 employees, but be super inefficient in terms of how you run the business. I want to have a team of A players, like be as lean as possible and make as much money as possible. So you have profit margins of like 60, 70% plus. And that's possible. But it's a struggle at the moment because I feel the generation that's coming right now, like basically the guys before us, I'm not the only one saying this. And again, it goes back to making a bold statement. I think they have become so lazy. Like they want to have like nice pay, like a nice paycheck, but they don't want to work for it, which is like,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't make any sense. So it's really a struggle to find good employees nowadays, especially for the next generation that's coming. This is
Dude.
kind of the
Wait,
5-year
okay.
plan.
Yeah. Sorry, keep going, keep going.
And then also give back to the community. So just giving back, like, I don't know, to the state of the Netherlands, whatever, to the country of Netherlands. Of course, I'm
You're
paying
gonna,
my taxes,
yeah.
but just also like, because I think the more money you make, I think you've been very fortunate because people give you money and you shouldn't be irresponsible with it. Of course, you want to
Mhm.
pay, like afford nice things, etc., nice cars, whatever, but then also give back to the less fortunate ones. And I
Yeah.
promised myself to do that definitely. I said it on podcast, but also off podcast anyway to people who are very close to me, because people trust you and companies trust you with the money. And there's just too many people, especially politicians, who are like just stupid with money. So I don't want to
And
fall into the
that's
same
just, yeah.
category.
Yeah. That's good. I appreciate that you're acknowledging it early, right? Being able to identify that and be honest with yourself at this stage will allow that to kind of trickle and actually happen. So
Yeah.
good on you for doing that. I'm curious, and I'm sure some of the listeners are too. When do you decide to go full time with a side hustle?
This is a very good question. I like that one. I wanted to actually make a video about that on the Apex channel. I think it's always stupid to fully go into the business immediately. Like, let's say you have a 9 to 5 and having a side hustle, you should never go into your business immediately. So I think you should earn at least, I would say 5 to 10K, depending on where you live. Let's say you live in the West, like in Germany, Netherlands,
Mm-hmm.
UK, whatever. Minimum 5 to 10K, because even 10K, it sounds stupid, I know, but if you make the calculation, even 10K as a business owner is not a lot.
Yeah.
It's not a
Yeah.
lot because
All
you
the
have to take taxes
expenses,
away, expenses,
tax.
exactly, health insurance, maybe. Then what's left is maybe 2 or 3K, maybe
Yeah.
if it's really going
Yeah.
well. So I think you should first go part time. So if the side hustle goes well, go part time, and then eventually you kind of phase out your 9 to 5. This is
Yeah.
kind of my
And
approach.
I think everyone always thinks too, like, oh, I charged a customer $10,000. Like, I made so much money. But no, you mentioned tax, all the
Yep.
payroll companies you have to work
Yep.
with, the accountants you have to pay, the people you have to
Correct.
consult with to get that. And then also every service you use, whether you're charging through PayPal or Wave or whatever company, they're taking slices. And it's amazing how much is gone, like you
That's
said.
crazy.
That's, yeah, I
And
think
there's
it's a
there's a,
numbers
there's a
game.
thing, 100%. There's a thing in business called death by 1,000 cuts. So you
Yeah.
think maybe I'm
Yeah.
going to get a Photoshop license, maybe I'm going to get, like, I don't know, the next Adobe product, whatever it might be. You're going to get so many tools. If you add them all up, it's like easy 1 or 2 thousand a month.
Yeah,
If
all
you are
those,
at
and
a
they're
certain
all
stage.
subscription services, and you're just like, because you need that to do your editing, you need this for that, and then all of a sudden
Yeah.
you're just like, holy cow, this is ridiculous. And so I think
Yeah.
it's a very much numbers game of being very tight on what your expenses are, living wise, for
Yeah.
your apartment and everything like that. And then, yeah, like you mentioned, not just thinking you're going to pull in 10K a month, but what is it actually? What does it come down to? And then being able to switch things, like, can you get your rent of your apartment to be now a business rent, so you can charge your business with that rent, right? You have a lot of that, like, personal accounting and the business accounting. You got to keep those things very, like, set in stone and in the right order, because that's a great way to get in trouble, at least in the US, with tax stuff.
Here
And
it's the same thing. Yeah, you really have
okay.
to pay attention because
Yeah.
if you make a mistake, I think especially I know it from Germany. Like most business owners, they fail after 3 years because sometimes after second or third year, you want to have to pay tax in advance and pay the tax basically that's due now. So
Yeah.
basically, you don't have any savings, or some of them, or even YouTubers don't have the savings, so they just are basically screwed and they have to they go
Yeah.
bankrupt.
Yeah, it's tough. But hey, man, I very much applaud you for making that jump. That's super exciting. We'll be talking a lot more, because I'm trying to plan my
Do it.
future in doing that. And I want to buy a van and, like, run the business out of, like, have robotic systems in my van and travel around and, make videos from there and have a very, like, organic feel and be consulting and going around and stuff. But that's still a little pipe dream right now. But
Yeah.
the longer I'm in the industry, I'm starting to feel out more and more clients. And I think there's some potential to do that. And it's not going to make, right. So this is the whole, like, making that 10K euro mark. I'm trying to find ways that I can reduce my expenses as well. Right. Right now I've got to pay rent here and stuff like that, but finding a way to, reduce expenses down as much as you can, and then try to see, okay, what do I have to make to match that? That's been a game I've been looking into recently, and it's not
Yeah.
easy. And
There's
the systems
only
I
so
have.
much. Yeah, there's only so much you can save. Actually, I think you have to differentiate between the operational business, like how much do you actually make
Yes.
in terms of revenue, but also like personal wise, like how much can you pay
Yep.
yourself out. And there's some
Yeah.
rule of thumbs out there, like how much you can actually, let's say you make 50K a month, how much you can actually pay yourself. And some people think, yeah, I can pay myself 25K. That's not the case, because you have running costs. And if you take too much out of the operational business, you have a big problem. So that's also kind of rule of thumbs, like how much do you pay yourself, etc.
Yeah.
And how much you
Yeah.
actually should spend on stuff. Maybe if you spend too little, you could spend more, because otherwise you're not maybe efficient enough. If you spend too much, maybe you're not efficient enough. So that's kind of the sweet spot of how much you should spend on stuff, etc. But yeah, also
I think
like work-life balance wise, I think this is also something we could talk about in
yeah.
another podcast. There is no work-life balance in the beginning. You can forget that. Like if you think you start your own business and chill and work less, that's a myth. Like you can absolutely forget, no matter what business model you're using,
Yeah.
that's not possible.
Well, even like right now, I don't have a great work-life balance, trying to do all this stuff in the evenings, right? So I'm keeping, like we said, like don't just jump off your 9 to 5 and start something random. But that means in the meantime, you have to be working your 9 to 5 as well as doing all this
Correct.
extra development.
Mhm.
So now like my weeknights are spent emailing, trying to figure out who's the next client, trying to do all this stuff, figure out the YouTube videos, editing, recording, billing, I'm like, what the heck am I doing? It's a lot of work. You're just taking on more responsibility to get more opportunities. And even that is a big place, I think, where people burn out. And I have to find myself like taking mandatory time away from my 9 to 5, away from my actual, creator side, influencer side, because it's a lot and you got to stay sane through it all. And also by realizing you could have just worked at Walmart and made more, it's such a,
Yeah, definitely. It's also a discussion like that it's more difficult as a man, for example, to make a living, because you cannot just say the next day I'm going to quit. Because I feel for women sometimes it's a bit easier. It's a topic for another podcast maybe. But as a man, you kind of have to perform, and I think you reach your peak at an age of like 30, 35, where you make good money. Depends on what industry you're in, and your life actually starts when you're 30, 35 in terms of money, career wise and business wise. For women, it's a bit earlier, and you don't really have to prove yourself in that aspect. I know it's a bold statement, but we should have a separate podcast on that. And
yeah, I
then there
think
was
that would be
one other thing.
yeah.
Yeah, one other
You
thing
go.
that you mentioned is that it's very difficult. Sometimes I spend Saturdays only on tax work, paperwork, and only like paying invoices. Like the whole Saturday is gone, or the whole
Yeah.
weekend. And I think sometimes I think about it more like, okay, this is tough, but I know that because it's tough, not everybody is doing it. This is why it's fulfilling.
Exactly. Yep. Yep. That is it. You
Yeah.
can also beat a lot of competition by being more gritty and more motivated and push through when the times are hard. Absolutely. When you're
Yeah.
thinking of quitting, so is like, whatever percentage of everyone else in your same situation. And if you hold on to that and keep pushing and be consistent every day, doing a little bit of something, that turns out and you beat the competition, because there's always going to be someone better. I used to be a runner growing up. There was always someone faster. Every meet I ran, I was never winning the meets. But if you can still be a little bit better, still push a little bit harder, you start to beat a few more people. And then at the end of the race, maybe you're top 5. Way better than being last, way better than being half, right? Like you just find yourself pushing, and it's a global enough market, and there's enough money to be made. There's enough niches to tap into that you can still make it by not being the absolute best, just by being in that top cohort.
But I think you should always strive to be at least in the top 1%,
You
which is
you
already
gotta
difficult.
strive. Oh yeah, no, 100%.
100%.
Yeah.
This is why it's so important to have a good network of people. Like I
Mm-hmm.
think also like we mentioned, like going from the 9 to 5 to full time. I think also your perspective changes in the way that you don't want to hang around with people who just chill too much anymore. Which is a weird thing to
Yeah.
say. Like for me, a couple of years ago, you would be like, okay, it's a friend, whatever. But if these friends are like, yeah, why would you run that business? It's not going to work anyway. Like people like you don't need them
Yeah.
anymore. Like it just pulls you down. So your whole mindset shifts, and you get onto the next level, and then it's kind of stable for a while, and then you want to go to the next level. This is also where the hedonic treadmill kicks in, right? You kind of find a stable state. Like for example, you hit 10K a month, which is like amazing. You hit it the first time, and then for
Yeah.
you it's like something normal, and then you want to have more stable. You want more. It's an
Yeah.
ongoing
Yeah.
thing for your whole life.
Now you make a really good point about surrounding yourself with those people, because it's essential, and that's just the environment that you're in. You got to find, that's I think why you and I get along very well is due to the fact that we have a shared kind of relatively shared goals, shared experiences in that regard, and we'll push each other. Right. You tell me something, I'm like, okay, listen, you go for X more, and you're always pushing me to say, okay, try to do this more. Whereas a lot of people in life will be like, hey man, take a bigger break, relax a little bit. And you need to do that at times to stay sane, but you also need to find that your new norm might be working more than usual, that you're going to go home and you're going to spend time working this night and on Saturdays or whatever. It's tough. It's tough in a world of like where mental health is very,
Yes.
up in the air with a lot of people. It's very difficult. It's not for everyone. And that's why I try to explain, like, listen, just doing this, it's not always for fun. It's not just this like, fever dream of super great times and I'm always loving it. Like, no, there are times, like you mentioned earlier on, there are times I don't want to record a video, but I'm smiling through it, right? You feel like you're just like up here, kind of almost like a show, but you got to push through and you got to make that stuff happen, even in the tough times when you're exhausted and when you're not going to make any money from it. You're just going to keep pushing and trying.
Exactly. Yeah, because eventually something will come out of it. And I think what I mentioned
something
earlier with like kind of the male-female comparison was exactly because of the point of mental health. Because especially men are struggling with it a lot, and especially society is saying like just eat it up, like just be a man, something like that. But I don't understand the struggle behind actually like providing for family or providing for yourself, that it's such a struggle. But yes, it's a topic for another podcast. But it's definitely interesting, and you just have to push through. It's just sometimes it's difficult.
It is, and then even working a 9 to 5 can have that same range of difficulties, and it's just part of growing up. It's part of making it and trying your best and finding ways that you can be your optimal self going in day to day, so you're more efficient. You're hitting the things that are going to get you promoted. You're finding the areas that are going to be the next big customer. It's always saying no. It's something I'm working on a lot more right now, so that you can say yes to the things that are really important. It's so easy to spin our wheels, early career jobs. Hey, you want to go work on this random thing? It's like, oh, it's an opportunity. Yeah, I'll jump on it. But is it an opportunity that's going to develop you in the right direction? Correct. So you can end up towards that 5-year plan, 10-year plan? And it's loose, right? I have no idea where I'll be in 5-10 years, but I know what skills I want. I know what knowledge I want. And if it's not getting me that, then I'm not interested anymore. You got to know when to say no.
This is a good approach. Something I'm thinking about is also like when I make these videos, like if my kids will watch the videos, would they be proud of me? Like also like putting all the work in, like at night, for example, let's say I'm going to provide for my family. Like would my kids be proud, or would my kids look up to someone else? Maybe it's a weird thought, but this is something I thought about, because for me, I found out this is a good way to motivate myself. Like would the kid look up to a random guy, like, or would they look up to dad, for example? This is how I think.
Yeah. Oh, that's very interesting too. I don't want kids in life, at least right now. That's what I say. My mom tells me otherwise. But that's a great lens. And even looking at, just like, would your uncle be proud of you? Would your brothers, would your sisters, would the person you're in a romantic relationship with be, proud of you? And is that something they respect out of you, or are you selling out? It's all these balances. And I think it's great to have a reflective lens back on your whole situation and say, what I'm doing, creating a positive impact. And that's so important for any job, right? Whether you're an accountant or, pipe fitter or whatever you're doing, right? That you recognize your value that you're creating for like the greater good. And that's essential. That's one thing I like about research and doing labs and robotics is there's very tangible aspects of that where you can acknowledge, like, yes, this is doing something for society. We're helping renewable energy, or we're helping to inspect hard, dangerous places that humans used to go and inspect, and now I can do it with a robot. Like, you can feel those tangible things. I think doctors are really easy, right? Doctors are treating people. They know they're doing good. It's obvious. But sometimes working for like a small marketing firm who sells springs as a business, you're like, this is a little bit tough to put yourself in the shoes or whatever. But you got to relate back to why it is important, and understanding and learning the degrees of separation, but it's so important to know that you're like a valuable member and that you relate to that internally. That's the whole like Simon Sinek, find your why, knowing what you want to do and how you want to contribute. And that's where a lot of the motivation comes from to then keep doing something long-term.
Absolutely. I feel this turned out to be a very emotional and philosophical podcast.
I'm crying, right?
We do it afterwards, like once we...
Yeah, I gotta do a diary entry after this now. Oh my God.
The only one that's missing is Jordan Peterson to join our session, and then
like man search for meaning. It is essential, right? End of the day, you gotta do something you're proud of, and you gotta know why you're doing it. Otherwise, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah, but sometimes it's also really tough. So you have tough days. It's normal. And I know a lot of people think that of me, for example. They think like everything is fine. But trust me,
Yeah.
like we're all humans and we have also downtime. So like we're not feeling well. So, but
No,
you have,
absolutely.
actually the art is to go out of the valley as fast as you can. And this is also a
Yeah.
mental game. And I feel,
Yeah.
for example, if you do fitness, if you do any type of sport, you got to learn yourself, like who you actually are and how your body functions.
Yeah.
So fitness is a big
Yeah.
aspect.
That's a great, yeah. I do a lot of hiking out here and do a lot of scuba diving and stuff. And
Yeah,
that you got to know how you regenerate energy. And that's
correct.
different for introverts and extroverts and
Yeah,
where you are in life. But being able to, when you're super stressed and things aren't working well and you're becoming inefficient with your time, that's my
correct.
trigger
Yeah,
of, okay, I know if I spend 10 hours, I'm only doing 3 hours of meaningful work. Don't even, I'm done. I'm not doing it. I'm going on a hike. I'm getting outside and I'll come back so much more refreshed and more efficient so I can knock something out quicker than I would have if I did it before. So that's,
yeah,
I'm glad you brought that up. That's a
yeah,
huge part of just staying sane on the job and being able to keep going.
absolutely. I love the podcast, Phil. I hope probably there will be a second or third. I'm actually starting an Apex podcast, which is called the Digital Renaissance. Maybe I should invite you. We could talk a little bit about business and the topics we mentioned in this podcast. I hope the audience learned something from it. Maybe the summary for them is going to be like, okay, I'm not going to become an influencer because it's kind of tough. But whatever it
Yeah.
might be, let us know in the comments.
Yeah.
Ping me and Phil on LinkedIn. But yeah, I really enjoyed it a lot, Phil.
Oh yeah. No,
Appreciate you waking up
absolutely.
early for me.
Oh my God,
So
dude. Hey, anything for you, Yusuf. It's my pleasure. But I really do hope
thanks.
that we get some engaging comments just because, again, as we mentioned, like we don't really do this, for your own benefit. We all got into it to help people and to share the journey and to educate. And if it weren't for the comments and the interaction, I wouldn't be very interested in doing it. So I'm very excited to hear from people watching and, things we didn't cover because there's a lot of the influencer creator journey that we're still learning, getting through. So anything that we can help educate on in this regard, please let us know and we'll be happy to answer.
Yeah, I hope we change at least one person's life. Know that we upload the 1 hour podcast, it's going to be like 30 views. I was like, okay,
Dude, I'm
this
waiting
is
for it.
not high leverage.
Yeah. Should have been at Walmart. Should have.
Yeah, exactly. Phil, appreciate it. Speak to you
Awesome.
soon, man.
Hey, take care. Good seeing you.